There is gridlock on Congress, but do you bear responsibility for what is happening at the border, what the president himself has called a crisis?
The White House is saying if you don't pass the bill that we want, which, by the way, we don't even need the bill in the first place because we already do have laws as it relates to the border and everything else, then we will have ICE stop doing its job. That is mafia-style tactics. So what do they have? They have mafia-style tactics, and then they have a whole bunch of people who should not have their jobs in the first place. I would say the peak of that, well, of course, you've got the elderly man pretending to be president, and then the woman polling at zero, who he brought in as vice president because she's black and female. But then we also have Department Homeland Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas with his eyebrows, and he doesn't know what the hell's going on.
No doubt there is gridlock on Congress, but do you bear responsibility for what is happening at the border, what the president himself has called a crisis?
It certainly is a crisis, and we don't bear responsibility for a broken system, and we're doing a tremendous amount within that broken system.
How could we bear responsibility for this thing just because it's my job and it's my policies that have led to about a 10x in illegal immigration since his boss, Joe Biden, took over. Trump's last year, it was about 300,000 people. It's almost 3 million people right now, 2.9, something like that. They've almost 10x'd it. No country on earth, no civilization in the history of this planet could survive just by letting everyone in and letting them run rampant and everything else. But it's not his fault. It's just a broken system. By the way, the broken system that he's talking about, just weeks ago, they were telling us that the system isn't broken and it's just these crazy right-wingers on YouTube that are making a big deal about this. But then a whole bunch of us started talking about it, or had been talking about it for quite some time. It started rising and rising and rising, right? Because you suddenly get people like Joe Rogan who'd rather talk about MMA, and you get people like Stephen A. Smith who'd rather talk about the NBA. They're suddenly talking about it, and then they can't ignore it anymore. And then they're suddenly like, oh, we need an emergency bipartisan bill passed.